Good morning, everybody. There's still some people joining us, but I think we'll kick off. Welcome to 2022, and fingers crossed that we're all going to have a slightly better year than we have done over the last two. Absolutely delighted to be back delivering some more ASSE talks. We've been doing these talks since September 2020. Since then, almost 4,000 people have registered to attend these talks, with another 4,500 having watched the recording since then. They've become a really valuable resource library for ASSE members. It averages 274 participants per talk and 472 per month. We're really, really proud of them, and I hope that you find them really useful. So we're going to carry on rolling out our session of ASSE talks over the next few months, and I hope you enjoy them. So 2022, where are we? To start on a positive note, for UK market, bookings continue to be strong for the UK, with no sign of slowing down. This indicates consumer confidence in 2022, which is really very welcome indeed. Bookings have been strong, but confidence has definitely been hit by Omicron. There were fewer bookings for January, indicating guests are obviously planning to travel less in January, which fits with the surge of the new variant and advice from the Scottish Government. We've also seen some concern, and I've had some emails about bookings for the coming year, but let's not forget that we're only 3 weeks into the year and we're all a little bit afraid and a little bit anxious. So don't worry. I know there's plenty of gaps in calendars that bookings might appear to be slow, but people need to remember that the summer is months away and we shouldn't panic. It's going to be a boom year for self-catering. We've got to believe that, and we need to keep harnessing some positivity. So what we need to do is look at what we can do to drive bookings and ensure repeat business. I'm absolutely delighted to be joined by Angie Fowler, Visit Scotland's Quality Assurance Engagement Manager, and Andy McNulty, co-founder of TouchStay, who are going to help us to harness that positivity and take some practical tips of what we can do to benefit our business. Angie started her career in tourism working for the Walt Disney World Company in Orlando, Florida. This instilled in her a passion for the guest experience, ways of creating personalized interactions with customers to memorable effect. She's worked for Visit Scotland for over 9 years and now works in encouraging investment in quality throughout all sectors of Scottish tourism. Angie is the chief exec of and co-founder of TouchStay, a mobile web app that helps accommodation operators communicate more efficiently with their guests. Taking the form of a digital guidebook containing all the information a booked guest needs to know about their stay, it reduces their questions and creates a better stay experience. I use TouchStay. It's been absolutely brilliant for us. So I really do actually recommend that you take a look at it and have a chat with Andy. But in the meantime, Angie, very welcome and a happy new year to you.
Happy New Year, Fiona. Thank you to you and the team at ASSE for having me today. I'll just go ahead and share my screen and we can get started on these practical tips that we're talking about. So I am the engagement manager for quality assurance at Visit Scotland, and that's the angle that I'm coming from you to today. We work with over 4,000 businesses across Scotland and feedback on the experience that they offer, but from a visitor's perspective. And we award that star rating, which allows businesses to market using our logo, and in turn helps them to set expectations properly and reach their target market of the type of visitor they want to welcome. So our job at Quality Assurance is to help equip businesses to focus on the quality of their offering in order to meet and hopefully exceed ever-changing and ever-growing expectations of our local and international visitors to Scotland. So today we're going to focus on how you as self-catering providers can make your guests happy and encourage those repeat bookings. The slide I've got up just now is the traveler's cycle. So it depicts every part of the guest journey. And while this cycle itself hasn't changed, the context of the elements, each individual element certainly have changed in this pandemic world. For example, and you'll be familiar with this, we're seeing shorter lead-in times for bookings, the desire for clear cancellation policies, the need for reassurance about any changes that you've made at your property, and that's especially key for when you're welcoming back return visitors. So at each stage in this process now, visitors are looking for reassurance that what they are seeing is a safe, clean, and welcoming business. And that's your challenge, to communicate these things clearly and try and preempt any questions that the guests might have for you. We'll look at ways to do this today and how to be as transparent as possible for your visitors so that it doesn't only help attract bookings, but it will also save you time in answering all these queries that guests will have. And I know we're going to hear much more about that from TouchStay, and I'm really looking forward to Andy's presentation next too. I've put up some statistics on this slide. These are some insights that we learned last year about travelers during this COVID time. And we have learned that referring to quality assurance star ratings and user-generated reviews was really important, but most important for first-time visitors. And also having a COVID-safe accreditation, such as the We Are Good to Go stamp, was a really important reference in decision-making for both repeat and first-time visitors. It's not on this slide, but we actually did learn from booking.com, according to their research, that 79% of UK travelers will take a lot more precautions due to COVID. That's obvious, but they will actually look to the travel industry to help them gear up for this new normal. So basically, they're placing all the responsibility onto you, the visitors. They'll place the responsibility onto you, the business owner. And 76% of visitors will favor accommodation providers that supply antibacterial and sanitizing products. It seems quite a simple thing to do, but if you're letting them know that you do it, you'll provide some reassurance. If you don't have the Good to Go stamp, you might want to look into the details of it on our visitscotland.org website. We did hear that many businesses have really found the aided walkthrough of the risk assessment that you've got in place really helpful. And businesses have also been able to use this logo to help reassure potential bookers that their business is safe and clean. And at Visit Scotland, we've actually been carrying out the spot check advice calls to Good to Go businesses, just to make sure all of those standards really are in place and that the business is worthy of using this mark. You should be pleased to know that we really haven't received many complaints at all from visitors about businesses that have the Good to Go stamp. And of course, any concerns that are raised, we take seriously and act decisively on what to do. But it's also worth noting that none of those complaints that have come through have been about quality assured businesses. We've already seen that visitors look to the quality assurance stars for reassurance. So if you are quality assured, make sure your logo is on display on your website, across your social media channels, everywhere you can, because by definition, a QA business is a safe, clean, and welcoming business. And that's written directly into our criteria, some of which I've noted on the slide here. It is worth saying, by the way, that levels for cleanliness have always been important in quality assurance. But of course, now more than ever is a time when a business can't afford to have a day off in this respect, and attention to detail is so key. So in response to those rising visitor expectations regards cleanliness, we have revised our quality assurance criteria, and now any scoring of 2-star level or below, that is 1 or 2 out of 5, will result in no quality assurance award being confirmed, because it would be unacceptable to visitors. So hopefully you agree with that decision. But I have some tips on you, for you here. If you are a QA member, do what you can to reassure your consumers that you take this Visit Scotland Code of Conduct really seriously. You could write about it in a blog or in a section on your website regarding what quality assurance means and what you've done to ensure that you're meeting national standards. And also make the most of your visitscotland.com web listing by ensuring the contents are up to date and accurate. And also that you've linked in with an eligible web booking engine if possible, because all of this can help convert those lookers into bookers. Because QA businesses on our website get almost 3 times as many referrals per web listing as businesses that don't have a quality assurance award. In addition to that, those who have an integrated web booking engine receive over twice as many bookings, so make over twice as much revenue as listings from non-QA counterparts. So it really is a benefit to market using our star logo. But a little bit more about how the QA scheme structure can help you in this theme of making guests happy. For those of you that don't know, of course, when we're grading, we do look at the bricks and mortar of self-catering properties, and there's must-haves that have to be in place. So there has to be bedrooms, a bathroom, there has to be a kitchen, some comfortable seating. But we also look at the full guest experience, and this section of the grading process that I've put on the slide pulls out the elements which allow you to stand apart as a business and provide a more personalized experience for your guests, one that they'll want to return for, hopefully. And so these areas shown in the purple boxes are assessed on how efficient and hospitable and professional owners and staff are in making sure that guests have a really lovely stay at your property. So when the quality and tourism advisor team visit you, each of these grading elements are assessed and given a score from 1 to 5 to reflect the star standards that you've got in place here. So I thought to just dig a little deeper into this scoring. And first up, we've got the pre-arrival information, which refers to all the content that is available to guests before they reach your property. It includes booking confirmations, travel directions, practical information on what to see and do in the area, everything that you do to help guests make the most out of their stay, and everything that you can do to try and enhance their visit before they've even reached you and stepped over your threshold. 5-star standards here would see high quality branded and professional correspondence on a website. A secure and straightforward booking system, enhancing information being sent proactively to guests, that's key, and every opportunity taken to personalize correspondence. You might also use this opportunity to upsell special extras like champagne on arrival or delivery of groceries from a local farm, something to make it special. We also recommend creating an access guide and uploading that to your website. An access guide gives full information about your property to guests that might have certain challenges or access requirements. And being transparent and forthcoming with this sort of information is crucial when looking to attract bookings from the accessible tourism market. These are really high spenders and very likely to return when they see that your property is right for them. So it's a great market to tap into. I've actually created a handout on the back of my presentation, and I've got a link to access guides on that, which will tell you everything that you need to know. We've got a link through to a program, a free program that you can use just to enter all the details about your property, and the program will create a user-friendly guide for you and give you a URL that you can use, and you can link that URL into your website or any other property listing that you have. So it's super easy. And the good thing is that if you ever make updates to your access guide, the URL will update automatically as well. But you can see the details on my handout. Score 2 here is welcome and arrival procedures. And that refers to everything that's put in place to ensure a warm and hospitable welcome, including arrangements for access and how the guest can summon assistance during their stay if they need it. And 5-star standards here would tend to see guests being met personally on arrival, though it's probably been your experience too that during the pandemic, a remote entry has been the preference for most guests and owners, to be honest, in which case perhaps an orientation video might be an option to send visitors so that they know where everything is and how it all works. But whatever you choose to do, the key here is to set expectations properly so the guest knows what they're going to come to. And if possible, actually just give them a choice and ask them what they would prefer. We might also see welcoming touches such as a nice fireplace that's all set and ready to light, or lamps left on for evening arrivals, a pretty welcome card by a local artist that's got a personalized note in it from you. Or if a family is coming to stay, some soft toys out on the beds to welcome the kids. Of course, food and drink hampers or a small gift from a local supplier. These can all be surprise and delight factors for your guests. And the third score here is in-unit guest information and personal touches, which includes all practical information available to your guests while they're in your property. So house and appliance instructions or recycling information, for example, as well as information on the local area, what to see and do. But it also includes items that might be left in the property for your guests to use, like books or games or Wi-Fi. But at the 5-star level, there has to be a selection of wow factor extras. And it's not unusual for us to see things like really high quality built-in sound systems, barista coffee machines, hot tubs, membership access to local spas or clubs, or a telescope set up for enjoying the night sky in rural areas. And when you're thinking about the in-unit guest information, best practice means having a comprehensive and well-compiled selection of information that's personalized. It's much better to have a bespoke write-up of what you as an owner have tried and tested, rather than just a pile of leaflets left with no context given. And having this information regularly updated and available digitally is also a consideration for you. And again, I know we're going to get some really practical tips from Andy at TouchStay coming on this next. I wanted to inspire you today with a wonderful case study that we have and some practical tips from Pinewood Steading, which is outside Inverness. Owner Jane Slaughter has been really generous in sharing some recent business insights with us, as well as tips on attracting repeat customers. Jane was hoping to join us on the webinar today. So Jane, if you're there, I hope I do your story the justice it deserves. Pinewood Steading is a 4-star property just now, but scores at the 5-star level across the board in its management efficiency. So those are the scores we just talked about. The 2 themes that Jane urges us to remember are communication and direct bookings. So for communication, Jane ensures plenty of it pre, during, and post the guest's stay. Of course, she does admit it's easier that she stays on site and she's able to welcome guests personally. So she does greet them and she shares her recommendations for the local area based on what she hears from them, based on what she learns that they like. And she finds this personalization of the interactions help her build a lasting rapport. And last year, over half of her guests booked a future stay while they were in her property still, or on their way home after their holiday. So it's really impressive. Each guest is also given a lovely follow-up email with an invitation for 10% off a future booking, which also helps to encourage those repeat bookings. In terms of the theme of booking direct, Jane does find that this offers way more opportunities for her to communicate directly with guests than if they were to book through a third party. Though she does work with an online travel agent, which helps the business become more discoverable for first-time bookers, which is key. But she does all she can to encourage those direct bookings thereafter. And Pinewood Steading has an up-to-date blog and releases newsletters once or twice a year. Both of these things help the business to stay in the front of mind for visitors the whole time. And every time she releases a newsletter, she gets 1 or 2 bookings straight away on the back of that. So make sure you do look at her website and social media channels to get a flavor of the content that she puts out there. This building up of relationships and direct contact has resulted in over half of 2022 bookings at Pinewood being for longer than a week, so 10 days or more. About 75% of these being repeat bookings from customers she's welcomed in the past. And currently, she's got over 95% bookings coming in directly via social media. So super impressive. Thank you. So please do let us know if you'd like to have a conversation with us about quality assurance or any of these details I've just mentioned. I've got an email address at the bottom there, customer.services@visitscotland.com. For anyone that's joining us today that's a QA member already, our team have been really busy offering advice on the phone and video calls with businesses across Scotland, and they've been able to look at your online presence, your website, everything you're doing, and offer feedback and tips for improvement. They'll also write it all down for you in a report that you can refer to and use. Or you could have a conversation with us. Perhaps you're thinking of investing in your property, or you've got some concerns about your lack of ability to invest given the current climate. We'd love to talk to you about these things too, and perhaps chatting with us could offer some reassurance or new ideas for you. And anything that we do for you just now is free of charge. And for anyone joining us today that's not a member of Quality Assurance yet, please do get in touch if you've got queries about how it works. There is usually an annual fee for membership, but it is currently free. So there's no better time to join if you want to receive that bespoke feedback from our team and start using the star logo in your marketing in years to come. Just a couple more practical tips from me before handing over to Andy. This slide, well, you might be familiar with our themed years. We're just coming out of the year of coasts and waters, and now we're in the year of stories. And these themed years provide us all with inspiration and the means to link in with national marketing campaigns. And we have a toolkit on our website. Again, I've linked it on the handout I've created. There is such power in storytelling, though. It connects visitors to a sense of place, and it can add that level of intrigue or interest and provide talking points for sharing about holidays that we've had, therefore increasing the likelihood that your property will be mentioned when guests are talking to their friends and family. Visitors are actually much more likely to make a booking with you if you've got an enticing story that they want to be part of. They want to stand in the place that it happened, or walk where that person walked, or try the best produce in the area, the best whiskey or handmade chocolates. So invite them into the surrounding area that your property's in, as well as local attractions and restaurants. So your call to action here is think about what stories you can tell about your property or the local area. And this can be the inspiration for some good content on your social media, newsletters, or blogs if you make them. And we're asking you to share these stories too using the hashtags at the bottom of the slide, because that will help your content reach a much wider audience, and we'll help you do that. Demonstrate enthusiasm for your story, because that enthusiasm is infectious for your visitors. And we've really seen through the pandemic, the visitors' increased desire to support local businesses, shop local, connect with the community. So do keep all these themes in mind when you're thinking of what stories to tell, because it will help you to remember what kind of stories your visitors will be interested in hearing. And to build on that theme and give you a practical tip for just now, have a search and find if there's any food and drink businesses in your area that have the Visit Scotland Taste Our Best Award. Again, I've given you instructions on how to do that in my handout, but these businesses are living out the ethos of responsible tourism, supporting their community and loving local suppliers. They're proud to tell diners about their place-to-plate story of their produce suppliers and dishes. So it's a really good place for you to start too. But thanks, that's it from me. I hope you've had some good practical tips.
Sorry, apologies. I was busy looking at all the chat. It's amazing. We've got some really good questions coming in, which we will put to the panel after this session. So if you do have a question, pop it into the chat or the Q&A, and we'll get to that afterwards. Thank you so much, Angie. That is so helpful. And it's really interesting, actually, that any of the complaints that came from the Good to Go weren't in quality assured premises. That's quite intriguing. And I know obviously that, the SSE constantly tries to support quality in every single facet, whether it's cleanliness or experience or, what you provide to guests. Andy, over to you at this point.
Thank you, Fiona. Angie, my goodness, what an amazing presentation. I have literally taken down so many notes. I'm sure everyone has their own notes, but before I jump in, I just wanted to call out a few highlights that I thought were amazing. The year of stories, brilliant. If there's something that this pandemic has taught us, it's this desire to go and experience something on our own doorstep. We don't need to fly anywhere. People will do that, but they're desperate to find out what's going on in the local area. And to that point, I loved your suggestion of having curated recommendations rather than just a ton of leaflets. People don't want that. They can go and search Google. If you can give them your places and connecting with the best of Scotland as well, I thought that was brilliant. Clearly, people value the star rating, and they want also to look at peer reviews. I noticed that earlier in one of your slides. Peer reviews is so important. What else did I pick up? Pinewood Steading, 95% direct bookings, and they get bookings when they send out a newsletter. Thought that was brilliant too. I could go on, but I won't. There were so many good things, so thank you. Let's hope I can do as good a job here. So, Angie, I can see you on the screen. Can you give me a nudge or a thumbs up if you can see my screen okay? You can. Fantastic, thank you. So, we're coming at this from the perspective of what have we learned about 2021 and how can that inform what we do in 2022? But before I get into that, I'm sure there are lots of people. I've seen some of the attendees. I know we've got some current TouchStay customers on there. Welcome to all of you. But for those who don't know what TouchStay is, I am going to give a brief rundown of what TouchStay is. I hate selling. I have been in your shoes and listened to webinars where people sell. You're not going to get that from me. But I do want to let you know what TouchStay is. It would be a bit remiss of me not to do that. So it will be quick. That's my guarantee. Briefly, as you can see. So what is TouchStay? It's think of what Angie said, your leaflets and your flyers that sit there. Think of what she said about the pre-arrival information that you send to your guests. Think about what she said about the stuff that you have in home that tells guests where things are and what to do. It's all of that in a digital version. It's your traditional cottage binder in a digital version. That's all it is. It's nothing more or less glamorous than that. And we have so many self-confessed technophobes that say, I can do this. This is something I can do. So it's not complicated. You can use a Word doc. If you can do stuff like, if you can upload photos to, some of the online travel agencies like booking.com, etc., you can do this, not hard. And as you can see, you get a nice branded asset on the left-hand side that reflects who you are. What does it do? Won't bore you with all of this, but essentially it allows you to communicate stuff to your guests that they need to know before they set off, which is the good thing about a digital product. They don't have to wait to get to the home to find that stuff out. They can read it on their laptop, their tablet, their mobile phone. It doesn't matter. They can access it everywhere. You can recommend local things, and there's a map feature, so it allows you to pin things on the map. And there's a little integration we've got with Google Places as well that makes that nice and easy. But this is the result. This is where the good stuff happens, because you've done all that work. So what? Well, these are just a few of the recommendations, comments that have come back from some of our customers. This one I love because it's just a glowing endorsement. Not only is she saying OMG, TouchStay, lots of hearts, but also about how much more relaxed she was over the summer. Less questions, despite a full booking calendar. And that's because she was able to communicate all of this digitally. It makes you look better. Guests love it. And that's the consistent feedback we get. In fact, we've started to collect some guest comments now that we've been sent by our customers. So it's clear there's some demand for it. And the result, it allows you to put certain things on autopilot. You don't necessarily need to be doing manual processes after you've taken the money. And I will talk about after you've taken the money. This is one of my pet peeves. What happens is I make a booking and I pay my money. And then I'm sure lots of you are not like this, but I know a lot that are, where I don't hear anything from the person I'm staying with until I pretty much arrive on the doorstep. And it's such a missed opportunity to engage me throughout the stay. So we're in now 18,000 properties around the world, but don't think of us as like this big organization. We really aren't. As you can see here, 93.7% of our customers have fewer than 10 properties each. So this is an independent accommodation operator's product. This is not, you know, the Hilton or anything like this. This is a tool that allows you to essentially get all the information in one place. So what has 2021 told us? I said I wouldn't dwell too much on Touch Day. Let's talk about what we've learned throughout the last year. First of all, how did we collect what we learned? We did this in 3 ways. We essentially crowdsourced, which is just a fancy way of saying we asked people. So you can see we did 3 things. Starting left to right, we created a podcast. And on that podcast, we invite guests to come and talk to us so that we can get the perspective from real guests who have had real stories. It's not about us in our bubble. You know, we think we know what guests want. We think we know what's best. No, let's hear it from guests. So that was the first thing. The second thing in the middle is we held lots of webinars. And on those, we actually did tend to get industry people. And we talked about all sorts of subjects. And the third thing on the right-hand side, our own community. So aside from the 18,000 properties in our private Facebook group, we've got about 1,400 people now. And there's an active community there that tell us things. So these are all the places that we gathered our information from. So what did we learn? The first thing, and I think this is the best thing to point out, is that despite your historic experience of guests, let's say that politely, who don't read, they do read. I think in life we're guilty of assuming that 1 or 2 people who communicate in a negative way with us, or we hear from and there's some criticism, we assume that reflects the population. And just because 1 or 2 guests are problem guests and they don't read, it doesn't mean that we're all tarred with the same brush. I'm a guest, I read. The only reason I don't read is if I get sent tons of stuff, or it's very technical, like here's a load of booking conditions, here's a list of rules and things to do and don't. They all have their place, but I booked my stay. I'm aware of your terms and conditions. By all means, link them to me again. And I'm aware of what I paid. Okay, remind me. But let's focus on the things that I would really value and help engage me. And we found through the summer that just under 500,000 guests accessed the Touch Day guides, and they did so multiple times during their stay, leading up to their stay and during their stay. So we have the data. We know that your guests are reading things. It's just about, you know what it's like. We all have really full inboxes, and we prioritize, and we'll skim stuff, and we'll delete stuff that we don't think is important. So we need to kind of get in front of the guest and realize that they're as busy as we are, and make it very easy. So I don't wish to be patronizing here, but like I'm aware that I sometimes am sounding like that, but I think it's important to like go back to the basics. I find this with myself all the time. If you've got something to say on an email, keep it short, keep it humorous, inject a bit of your personality. If you're not humorous, if you're kind of very professional, keep that in your copy, in the emails you write. Don't try and pretend to be something else, but keep it like that, and make it really bite-sized. And if you've got more things that you need to tell them, send a couple of emails later on, closer to their stay, or indeed link off to places, maybe on your website or in your Touch Day guide, where you are going to give the information that you think they need. But make it really easy for them to like quickly open the email and see immediately the value, and then take action on it. So they do read, they definitely do read. This one I think is really important, and this speaks to the independent accommodation sector. So Transparent and AirDNA, and for those of you who don't know, they're 2 data companies in our industry, and they basically interrogate all the data that exists on all of the booking channels, Airbnb, Booking.com, all of those, and they have found that the personal touch matters. And what does that mean? It means that the average review score for the small independent operators is much higher than those who have a much larger agency style portfolio. It doesn't mean the agencies always get it wrong. This is an average review score. There are lots of great agencies out there. But in general, 4.8 versus 4.45, those are the two average scores from those who are the smaller independent operators versus those who are larger. And I think this is wonderful news because it does speak to the ability of the smaller operators to deliver a memorable guest experience that people are then going to leave a positive review about. And I think this is something really to hook onto, that it can be a bit crazy in this sort of fast-paced moving world where we're seeing lots more eyes on what we're doing. We're seeing lots of kind of larger businesses come into the market. We feel threatened. Are we as a small operator going to be able to survive, etc.? This is the thing to cling on to, because who has the power in all of this? The guest. And if we can impress the guests, we'll win the game. So 4.8, I think, is a really, really, really good thing to hook onto. We also found that good surprises wow people. I don't think that's necessarily a surprise, but what I liked here was a quote from a lady called Alyssa Cincotta, who was actually our first podcast guest. She is a professional photographer. Her husband is a guy called Sal Cincotta, who's a very well-known photographer, maybe more so in the US. But they came on our podcast, or she came on our podcast to talk about her experience when she went to stay in a Tuscan villa. And when she arrived, she was greeted by the villa owner, who offered them an exclusive wine tasting in their private cellar. And at the end of that, they were given a bottle of limoncello. And she still has that limoncello on her mantelpiece in her lounge. And I said to her, why didn't you drink it? Why didn't you open it? She said, it's because it reminds me of the experience I had. And I think that's something interesting also to latch onto, that as smaller independent operators, you have way, way more ability and flexibility to deliver these kind of experiences than a big box agency does. And you don't all have private, vineyards and cellars and all of this, but you will have something. I guarantee it. You will have something that you are known for, or that is different about staying with you. And it doesn't have to be complicated, but just have a think about that. I saw some questions on here about, do we need a liquor license to sell, alcohol, or leave a bottle of wine as part of the welcome hamper? I'm going to get onto that in a second. But I think those, dare I say that, I think that's a little bit historic in thinking. I think we need to think a little bit more about what else we can do to wow the guest. It doesn't have to cost money or anything like that, but just it's creativity. But the important thing is that as soon as you do that, the guest remembers you. Angie spoke a little bit about this, about upselling, and I noticed some comments on this. This kind of leads on from what I said just now about it doesn't have to be complicated. This line, it's 90% inspiration and 10% execution. Most of the really brilliant ideas are all about thinking. The actual delivery of it can be very simple. And I love this. We had a panelist called Nick Ellis who runs hotels in Australia. And you're thinking, why have you brought a panelist from a hotel world? Well, we thought it was interesting because he's very creative in the way he approaches stuff. And he works for independent hotels. He's been a GM, general manager of hotels. And he had one rule, as you can see, never give someone a bottle of wine and some cheese. Anyone can do that. We can do better. And that was his mantra, and that's what he always used to say to his hotel staff. And I actually think we can all do better than that as well. I think that there's so many more interesting things that you could do. And look, it doesn't have to be complicated. And I'm sure lots of you leave local produce. That's brilliant. I think that's way, way better. I've stayed at places where they've left me some little local produce stuff, and I go and I shop in that place before I leave, because let's face it, that's something that we don't experience back home. And so the minute someone introduces us to that, the more we want to experience more of that. So we'll go and we'll shop there. And why not have a little card that says, go shop here, mention us, and you'll get 10% off, or something like this. That's what I mean about it. It doesn't have to be that difficult to actually execute on these ideas. My kids, when we've been on holiday, we've been to some places, but the one they remember the most, and this is so old school, it's the one that left the chocolate on the pillow. That's the one that they remember most. But equally, it was the one that brought muffins every day. So brought a blueberry muffin every day for the kids. And I'm not saying that this is what you have to do, but for my family holidays, I kind of get the halo effect, and I get the dad, you've done so well, when my kids and my wife have a great time. So if you're catering to families, then perhaps think about what it is that the kids would like. And that can, we actually had our very last podcast was with a lady called Kelly McMahon, and she runs a 20 property business in the US. And she has little dog biscuits that they're pet friendly rentals. So anytime someone brings their dog, a little dog biscuit, and they ask for the dog's name before arrival, and they get the dog's name written on the dog biscuit. And such a simple thing, but everybody mentions it apparently who stays with her. So this is what I mean. Again, inspiration is most of the work. Delivering on it is not always that hard. Next up we have, okay, sorry, but this one's a little bit boring. You've got to communicate more. You've got to. Like I said at the start, I often have very little communication between booking and arrival. And Angie made the very good point that part of that management efficiency grading of Visit Scotland is all about that communication that you do pre-arrival. And if you're communicating once or twice, and you're A, expecting your guests to read it, and B, for them to know what to do when they arrive, and C, not to call you loads of times, you're in la la land. And I'm not saying that you have to communicate 15 times, even though Tyann Marsink here, who's left that comment, she's our Touch Day community ambassador, she owns properties. She actually has a 14-point communication flow. I'm not saying you have to go that far, but I do think that 3 or 4 times really isn't enough. And you don't have to make all of this stuff manual, just sequence things. You know, Touch Day that enables you to do that, but also your email platform will enable you to do that. Create templated emails so that each time you get a new reservation, you can just hit the send button on the templated email, just change the name. There's lots of tricks to make it easier. And think about mixing it up. So we all are glued to our phones, and we don't read a huge amount. We do read, remember, but we don't read a huge amount. Maybe texting. So maybe mix it up, you know, try it. You know, I think a lot of this is kind of try it and see what works. But texting will certainly get people very engaged, particularly closer to their stay. That 24 hours prior is the most angst-ridden time for a guest. I know that personally. So being able to point them to things at that stage when they're really tuned in, I think is great. We also have a communication health check that we're running. And I know that Joyce and Mel were going to share that with you afterwards on the notes, but it allows you to go onto our website and take a communication health check and get your score, and afterwards you'll get a nice templated flow that we suggest, so that some of this stuff that I've been talking about you can actually see on paper and think about how to do, rather than kind of imagining what it might be. Right, the final thing that I wanted to say is that social responsibility is right now. It's not next year, it's not 6 months from now, it's now. People are expecting this. It doesn't mean, by the way, that it's like, oh, I have to be planting trees, or it's all about green, or it's about recycling. It can be about helping the local community. So do you contribute to a local homeless charity? Do you give some of your furniture that you maybe replace from time to time to a local organization? So it's not just planting trees. Why this is all important is this very, very interesting survey that booking.com did on sustainable travel. They ran it in 2021. They had 29,000 travelers surveyed. So this is not a small survey. This is a very, very good sample size. 73% of travelers would be more likely to choose an accommodation if it's implemented sustainability practices. I think that is huge. And it's a great way for you to differentiate, because not everyone's doing this yet. And if you can have this on your website, if you can talk about it on your social channels, if you can communicate that to guests leading up to their stay, if there's anything your guests can participate in, I think that's really important. And again, we've got lots of ideas. So if you wanted to, if you were a bit stuck on, you know, what could you do, just ping me. We've got some ideas. As I said, it's not just green, it's kind of all things community and charity and people. Well, that's me done. If you've got any questions and you want to email me directly, andy@touchday.com. I am always available. There's lots of information on our website, but I'm not telling you kind of go to a website and ignore me. If you need to, you can give me a call.
Andy, that was amazing. I mean, I can't actually believe that the practical thoughts, suggestions, and opportunities that both of you have outlined have just been so brilliant. And you know, I've certainly taken away food for thought. As you can imagine, I spend far too much time at the ASSC and very little time on my own business. I have 2 properties and I really need to pull my socks up. But don't tell the quality assurance advisor when they next come around, Angie. Thank you so much. We do have a pile of questions. One of the ones that's really coming up quite thick and strong is this concept of whether you do need a license to offer wine and whether you need a food safety certificate to offer food. Now, both of those are really interesting. The simple answer to the wine thing is yes, you do. You need a personal license, even if you give away a bottle of Prosecco to your guests at Christmas. And that's because the wine is seen as part of the contract. Therefore, they're buying the wine from you, even though it's a gift. So I think the best thing to do, and yes, if you're baking bread, you need to provide all the ingredients that are in that loaf in order to ascertain whether the guest is going to be allergic to them, etc., etc. So you've got to be really careful what you give in guest packs. It's probably safer giving a dog biscuit, to be fair, but you know, we don't know what's with allergies with dogs these days either. What I think we might do on the back of this is actually produce a welcome pack guidance sheet. And so thank you for that recommendation. So we'll put that together and add it to our guidance sheet library. And somebody else was asking, do we have a mentoring program for newcomers? We have got a library of guidance sheets on the website that cover everything from whether you need to pat test every single item in your properties to how to market and so on and so forth. And we work with our partners to provide those guidance sheets. So for example, we're working with Andy, I believe, to generate a guidance sheet specifically around this subject. So whilst we don't offer a mentoring program, we've got all the background knowledge that you need in those guidance sheets and in that resource library. And again, don't forget, there's the library of previous ASSC talks, which are really, really valuable. So keep an eye on what's going on the ASSC website, which we are currently updating, by the way, and upgrading. So that'll be easier. But also some really nice comments about it. Thank you so much for great presentations. But there's a few questions for you both specifically. Angie, you did say just now that joining quality assurance is free at the moment. Is that right?
That's right. Joining quality assurance is free, and what we'll do is set you up with a member of the team. We have a sector specialist for self-catering, and we would set you up on a one-to-one phone call with her. And she would hear about your business. There would be a chance to ask any questions to her. She would like to ascertain if you have a goal for a particular star rating, and she would talk you through exactly what has to be in place for that star rating to be fulfilled. As you may know, just now our team is off the road. We're not doing live visits. We are redeployed into helping with the government funding, but we hope to get back on the road soon. And we will prioritize any new businesses that are awaiting grading and don't have a star rating yet. So we'll get out to you as soon as possible. But in the meantime, we'll set you up with all the information that you need to know about what you have to have in place, so that hopefully when we do visit, you get that star rating to target the visitor type that you would like. And we'll just work alongside you until you reach your goal. And for existing members, if you want any advice on changes that you've made or changes to the scheme or challenges that you have, or your online presence that we can give feedback on, that information and expertise is available to you free as well. So it's best to get in touch with customer.services@visitscotland.com, and we will link you up on a one-to-one basis with a member of the team. I saw a note that said, I'm not too sure about my ongoing quality assurance contact. It's best to use customer.services@visitscotland.com. And the reason for that is the team mostly work on an incognito basis when they grade hotels and guest houses. We don't link up one member of the team to one business like you will have with our IRMs, the industry relationship managers. You may have heard that term, and you may have a close relationship with your industry relationship manager at Visit Scotland, which is one contact for you. Whereas in the quality assurance team, we work on a team for you. So customer.services@visitscotland.com, and we'll answer any queries that you have. We can get you joined up to the scheme or set you up on a one-to-one phone call with a quality and tourism advisor. All free just now.
That's really helpful. It's funny, I've been part of the quality assurance scheme for 20 years, and sometimes you think, oh, what's the benefit? But actually, I definitely absolutely endorse being part of the quality assurance scheme. I think people like that additional trust, especially in light of the pandemic. So I would encourage anybody that isn't part of the QA scheme to do so. And also the guys that come out and advise, and they're not inspectors. That sounds like they're going to tick some boxes and you're terrible. They've got some really good practical tips as well, and they will be able to give you some more information about specifically your property, as well as some of the information that Angie's touched on. Andy, quick one. Is it better to email or text guests? I mean, we've kind of covered that. It's a bit of a combination, right? It's communicate with them any which way.
Yeah, it's a combination. I think one of the best things is to ask. I know that sounds like an actual additional process, but you could have a timed message that goes out saying, how would you like us to communicate with you forward? And then put them into the SMS stream or the email stream from there on, or the WhatsApp. Wow.
It is kind of exhausting. It's slightly 24 hours, but I guess that's what our guests are like these days. So we just have to accommodate that, I suppose, if we want to get the bookings and keep the consumers.
Or mix it up, just try it. Like I think your point is good, that we don't have endless time on our hands, but if you only know these things by trying them, so what works for one person because they've got a certain demographic of guests won't work for another. So I think if you can maybe just change up one of the things so that it's text instead of email, or vice versa, and see what the response is. Those are the best ways to test it.
Okay, thank you very much, Andy. Practical question: how much does TouchStay cost? It's a bargain, by the way.
It's a bargain, of course. No, it's £76 plus VAT per year. You can pay monthly. Monthly is just under a tenner a month, so it's a bit more expensive, but annually in advance, £76 plus VAT. That's for one property. If you've got multiple properties, the next 4 are half price or lower for each incremental one.
And practically, again, somebody's asked, if you've got 2 properties, you have the 2 separate, can you copy and paste one property over to the second property and then tweak them?
Yeah, when you create your second property, it allows you to effectively clone your first one. So you can have everything identical, and then you can just hop in and change the things that are different. So if you've got 6 places on one site, you can have them all start identically, but then maybe they've got a different dishwasher, or whatever the other things that are unique about it, you can just jump in and change those only.
Top tip, and this is something that I benefited from, I just don't have time. So actually TouchStay developed R2 apps for us for a little additional charge. But if you're either technologically challenged or time challenged, it's a really good option to work with the guys to get that little bit of extra help, and then you can tweak it afterwards. Again, can you upload visitor videos to TouchStay? I like the idea of an orientation video. Can that be added?
Yeah, 100%. You can add photos, you can add videos, you can add links to stuff where you've already got content. Yep. Most people are doing videos to show how to operate the front door if they've got a keypad, or hot tub videos often quite popular. So yeah, any video you want where you think it's better to show than to tell, that's possible.
Here's a nice little testimonial from Ruth. We love TouchStay, game changer for guests and us.
Oh, thank you, Ruth.
That's nice.
Yeah.
Is it only for UK properties? No, it's international, isn't it?
No, despite us being British, most of our business is in the States. We've got 50% in the States, roughly 20-25 here in the UK, and the rest kind of everywhere. So no, wherever you are in the world, you just log on and create your guidebook.
Amazing. Angie, quick question for you. If you're just an Airbnb listing, can you still get involved with Visit Scotland and Quality Assurance Scheme?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, we can get alongside you no matter what distribution channels you're using. And if you're not using other distribution channels like Airbnb, and you want to get increased bookings or different types of visitors, we can help advise you on channels that might suit you and how it all works. So yeah, we would love to hear from you.
That's absolutely fantastic. I think we need to kind of wrap up because it's approaching lunchtime, frankly. Thank you both so much. You've both given such incredible practical tips that we can all take away and actually do something about, whether they're small steps or the execution, which is only 10% after all. So, you know, go take a long walk, think about what you can do, and then it won't take too much to deliver those thoughts. It's been really brilliant having you with us today. What I've also taken away from this, from the questions that have been asked, is that I've got some ideas of new guidance sheets that we can produce for you guys, so that, you know, we can extend our guidance sheets and our resource library. So we'll go away with that in mind. And as ever, if anybody has any comments or thoughts or suggestions for guidance sheets, please get in touch with either Melanie or Fiona at assc.co.uk, and we'll see what we can do to help you. We are looking forward to our next talk on the 1st of February, when we're joined by Superhog, Bookster and Aperto to look at how to streamline and protect your business to stay ahead of the competition. So do try and join us then. That'll be another really valuable session with some really great service providers that we work with and trust. In the meantime, take care, everybody, and have a great rest of the day. See you soon.
Thank you.
Thanks, bye.